Welcome to the fire that made you. Welcome to the aftermath of your silence. Welcome to the ashes where people expected failure, and instead, you became a myth. This isn't just a story, this is a declaration, a living, breathing testament to the fact that even the clueless, the underestimated, the forgotten, can become something the world cannot even define. If you've ever felt written off, if you've ever looked in the mirror and thought, I don't know how I'll make it out of this, then this, right now, is your reckoning. Because here's the truth, they'll never admit. You weren't supposed to make it. And yet here you are. For every soul listening, if this speaks to the fire buried inside you, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this with someone who's ready to rise. Leave a comment below if you've ever felt like you were made for more, but were treated like nothing. This moment is yours. They saw nothing in you but silence. You were a question mark in their story, not even worthy of being a threat. You were background noise, a blur in their spotlight, the one they glanced at and forgot. But that forgetfulness, that was their greatest mistake. Because while they were counting you out, mocking you in whispers, measuring you against broken standards, you were doing something far more dangerous. You were learning, you were evolving, you were hardening, you were building in secret, failing in silence, cracking and bleeding and crawling forward without applause. And now they're asking questions they never thought they'd have to. How did it happen? When did it change? Where did this come from? And the answer is simple. You did what they didn't. You faced the darkness and didn't blink. Let them wonder. Let them sit in disbelief. Let them rewatch your old moments, dig through your past, search for the crack they think they missed. But they didn't miss it. You were exactly what they thought you were, until you weren't. And that's the point. You didn't become a legend because it was written in your blood. You became a legend because when everyone else stopped, you kept going. When fear wrapped itself around your neck, when failure kissed your hands, you gripped the pain and turned it into fuel. You let the disappointment become discipline. You turned doubt into blueprint. That's why they can't comprehend you now. Because the version of you they knew is long dead, and the one who rose in its place, they don't have a name for it yet. Every empire begins in the shadows. Every storm brews in silence. And your silence was misunderstood. They mistook your stillness for weakness. They mistook your observation for ignorance. But you were simply waiting, listening, bleeding internally while building externally. That's the art of transformation. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's not for show. It happens in the lonely nights, in the cold mornings, in the empty hours where nobody claps. And when you finally rise, people act shocked. But you're not surprised. You knew what you were building. You knew what it cost. You paid in tears. You paid in time. You paid in loneliness. And now the return is undeniable. They say success changes people, but the truth is, failure changes people more. Being counted out sharpens your edges. Being betrayed for being underestimated burns something deep into your soul. You stop begging for validation. You stop looking for approval. You stop waiting for someone to give you permission. And in that moment, you realize you don't need any of it. You realize that legends are not appointed. They are forged. You were not handed greatness. You built it brick by brick, in the dark, with bleeding hands. So when they look at you now and say, "This isn't who we knew," let them. That was the whole point. They will never understand your hunger. How could they? They never had to starve for recognition. They never had to fight for every inch of belief. They never had to wear failure like a second skin. But you did. You endured humiliation. You tolerated disrespect. You swallowed the insults and turned them into promises. And now, with every step you take, you echo those promises back into the world, not with words, but with results. You're not here to argue anymore. You're not here to explain yourself. You're here to dominate, quietly, relentlessly. When they ask how you did it, don't give them the blueprint. They don't deserve it. They weren't there when you were at your lowest. They weren't there when you were doubting your own worth. They weren't there when you almost broke. So don't gift them your story as if they've earned it. Let your success be the mystery they'll never solve. Let your wins echo through their doubts like a haunting melody. Let them feel every moment they laughed, every time they ignored you, every time they chose someone else. Let your taunts scream. You see, some people are built in comfort. Others are built in chaos. You were the latter, born from storms, raised in the fire, tempered by betrayal. That's why you don't just win. You survive. You outlast. You endure. You claw your way through the impossible while others wait for instructions. You're not here to compete. You're here to redefine what it means to rise. You are not a version of their expectations. You are the destruction of them. And the truth is, they needed you to fail, because your rise reminds them of what they didn't do. You are a mirror to their hesitation. Your progress exposes their laziness. Your focus threatens their distractions. So when they hate you now, understand, it's not about you. It's about what you represent. You represent the possibility that they wasted, the opportunity they ignored, the fire they let go cold. And now that you've made it real, they can't look away, not because they're proud, but because they're haunted. There's a price for being the one who changed. You lose people. You lose comfort. You lose the old you. But in return, you gain something more terrifying: freedom. Freedom to move, to build, to speak with actions, to no longer explain. And that freedom terrifies the ones who are still chained. So they'll call you arrogant. They'll call you lucky. They'll say you changed. But you didn't change. You returned. You returned to the version of you that was always there, just buried beneath doubt, beneath fear, beneath mediocrity. And now that it's surfaced, there's no going back. The path wasn't meant to be walked by everyone. It's lonely. It's brutal. But it's also real. There's no faking it here, no pretending. This is where results speak. And your results are screaming. They're shaking rooms. They're altering perspectives. You've become the story. You've become the lesson. You've become the warning that the one you ignore today might be the one you can't avoid tomorrow. And that realization, that's what broke their minds. Not just your rise, but the fact that they never saw it coming. They'll try to rewrite the story, pretend they were there all along, act like they knew something special was in you. But you'll remember. You'll remember the silence, the nights where you cried alone, the days you questioned everything, the doors that never opened, and most importantly, you'll remember who showed up and who didn't. And that memory, that's your crown, not the applause, not the fame, not the glory. Your memory is the weapon, and you'll carry it into every battle. This wasn't luck. This was warfare. You fought for this. You bled for this. And you earned every ounce of disbelief they now show. You earned the whispers, the panic, the late night discussions. You earned the stares, the hesitation, the fake congratulations. Because you didn't just beat the odds, you redefined them. You didn't just flip the script, you burned it and wrote your own. And that's the part they'll never recover from. Because when the dust settles and they try to understand, they'll realize you didn't become a legend by being accepted. You became one by being rejected and rising anyway. You did the unexpected, and it broke their minds. You know, it's not just about the victory itself. It's about the journey that no one else dared to take with you. When you started, you were the outlier, the one who didn't fit the mold, who couldn't be measured by their standards. You were the forgotten puzzle piece that didn't seem to belong, and every day, the world made sure you felt it. They reminded you you were lost. They whispered that you were less. They closed doors before you could even knock. But here's what's so vital to remember. None of that was ever meant to break you. It was meant to test you, to separate those who are content with excuses from those who are willing to bleed for more. There's a certain darkness that settles in when you realize no one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you the key. No one will shine a light on the path that you must walk alone. And that darkness, it either consumes or it fuels. You made it fuel. You used that quiet abandonment as your forge. Every moment alone, every night spent questioning, every day swallowed by doubt. Those moments weren't the end. They were the crucible. And out of that crucible, a different you emerged. Sharper, colder, unbreakable. You didn't just overcome ignorance, you weaponized it. You flipped their narrative. What they saw as cluelessness, you transformed into cunning. What they saw as a weakness, you honed into a strength. And that transformation, it's what shattered their assumptions. They weren't ready to witness it. They never imagined you would rewrite the rules while they sat comfortably inside their little cages. You dismantled those cages one plank at a time, without a sound, until suddenly you were standing outside, free. Free in a way that scares the complacent, because it means you're dangerous. You are unpredictable. You are unstoppable. The greatest trick of all is that you did this quietly. No parade, no fanfare, no flashy announcements. You didn't need permission. You didn't seek approval. You just showed up every day and put in the work that nobody else saw. You woke up while they slept. You sacrificed while they wasted time. You learned while they doubted. That's the real power, to build an empire in silence, to plot your rise while the world was distracted, to grow roots underground, so deep that no storm could tear them away. That's what broke their minds, because they thought you were just a phase, a moment, a blip. But you weren't. You were a revolution. You were a shift so seismic that the ground shook under their feet. You showed them that greatness doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't wait for spotlight. It doesn't rely on validation. It just is. It just becomes. And it's relentless. There's an unforgiving honesty in being the unexpected. Because once you step into that role, there's no going back to being underestimated. You've rewritten your story so thoroughly that the old you feels like a ghost, haunting the margins of your present. But that's the price you pay. To be legendary means to be misunderstood. It means to carry a weight of expectation that you alone can bear. People will stare, question, envy, hate, and fear what you represent. Because your rise is a mirror reflecting their own failures and fears back at them. But let them stare. Let them whisper. Let them try to understand the impossible. They never will. Because what you have built isn't just a success story. It's a manifesto. It's proof that the most powerful thing you can do is surprise the world and yourself. To look at the chaos around you and say, I will not be defined by it. To take every blow and turn it into momentum. To take every no and make it a foundation for your yes. This is what it means to break the mold, to be the anomaly, to shatter expectations. You know the moments when you felt so small, so lost, so helpless? Those moments weren't your end. They were the birthplace of your legend. Every sleepless night, every tear you hid, every ounce of pain you swallowed was a deposit into the bank of your future. And now, when you walk into the room, when you make a move, when you speak, that bank is overflowing. Your presence alone tells a story that words can't capture. You are the walking, breathing embodiment of, they didn't believe in me, but I made them. There's a dark beauty in the fact that you were never supposed to win. You were never supposed to make it this far. The odds were stacked against you in ways no one will ever know. And yet, here you are, standing tall amidst the wreckage of their disbelief. This is the moment when legends are born, not in glory, but in defiance, not in celebration, but in survival. Because the true test isn't the applause, it's what you did when no one was watching. That's where the real magic lives. Let me tell you this, the world doesn't prepare you for success. It prepares you for failure, for comfort, for settling. It conditions you to be predictable, manageable, forgettable. But you broke free from that conditioning. You ripped the veil off the lies and stared into the abyss, and the abyss blinked first. You took the path less traveled, not because it was easy, but because it was real. Because it was yours. You embraced the chaos. You embraced the struggle. And through it all, you became the unexpected force that no one can ignore. They ask how you went from clueless to legend. But the truth is, you never were clueless. You were just patient. You were just quiet. You were just strategic. You were waiting for the right moment to unleash what they never saw coming. And that moment is now. The world is watching. And they don't know what hit them. You are the proof that greatness is not a destination, but a journey through the shadows. You are the living answer to every doubt, every insult, every dismissal. You are the relentless force that says, I will rise no matter what. And that is what breaks their minds. The fact that you did not only rise, you soared. So, own it. Own the darkness you came from. Own the silence you thrived in. Own the unexpected power you wield now. Because the truth is, you didn't just change your story, you shattered the script entirely. And in that shattering, you became a legend. You've heard the stories, the ones about overnight success, about lucky breaks, about being discovered. But you know the truth, and it's far darker, far more relentless than any fairy tale. Your story wasn't handed to you on a silver platter. It was wrestled from the jaws of impossibility. It was clawed from the depths of doubt. Every step forward was paid for in grit and blood, and a stubborn refusal to accept anything less than your full potential. That's the unspoken truth behind every unexpected victory. The world never sees the nights you spent battling yourself. They only see the final scene, and they assume it was easy. But you know better. You've lived in that struggle. You've been the underdog so many times that being overlooked became second nature. But you took that silence, that absence of recognition, and turned it into a weapon. The quiet before the storm, the pause before the inevitable. You did not wait for the world to believe in you. You learned to believe in yourself when no one else would. And that faith, unshakable, dark, relentless, is what broke their minds. Because belief is a double-edged sword. When it's withheld, it becomes fuel for a fire that consumes doubt. When it's given, it can sometimes dull the hunger. But you thrived in the absence of belief. You let it fester, let it burn in your veins until it became an inferno. An inferno that turned your ignorance into insight, your failures into lessons, your silence into a roar. And now, the world hears that roar, trembling, unable to comprehend how the clueless became a legend. You are a living contradiction to every rule they tried to box you into. They told you to fit, to conform, to follow their maps. But you tore those maps apart. You traced your own path through uncharted territory, alone, unarmed, and misunderstood. That's why you are dangerous, because your power lies not in what they taught you, but in what you discovered for yourself. In the dark corners of your mind, in the quiet moments when nobody was looking, you built something unbreakable. The real breakthrough wasn't your success. It was your transformation. The version of you that walked into the arena now is not the same as the one who stumbled through the shadows before. You were broken down to be rebuilt, stripped of illusions so you could see clearly. And in that clarity, you found your edge. You found your hunger. You found the ruthless determination to become the person they never saw coming. That kind of transformation leaves scars, visible and invisible, but it also leaves legends. And here's the truth that will haunt them. No one can break what's already broken. You survived their doubts. You survived their neglect. You survived the cold indifference of a world that expected you to fail. And surviving isn't enough for you. You turned survival into dominance. You turned their disbelief into a monument of your rise. And now, every step you take shakes the foundations they built to keep you down. Remember, it's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. Not for applause, not for recognition, but for the relentless satisfaction that you did what others never dared. You turned the impossible into inevitable. You did the unexpected, and it changed everything. They look at you now and see a legend, but you know the truth. That legend was born in the darkest hours when you were alone with your pain, your fear, your doubt. That's where the real power lies. So never forget where you came from, because that past is your fuel. Your past is your power. Every scar, every failure, every moment of silence is a testament to your strength. You didn't just rise. You exploded out of the shadows. You didn't just survive. You conquered. You didn't just dream. You became. And this is only the beginning. The world will continue to underestimate you, to doubt you, to try to box you into their limited vision. But you have already shattered that vision. You have already rewritten the rules. The question now isn't if you will keep rising. It's how high you will go before they finally accept the legend they once ignored. You did the unexpected, and it broke their minds. Now it's time to do the unthinkable, to shatter expectations again and again, to prove that legends aren't born from comfort or approval. They're forged in fire, in darkness, in relentless defiance. You are that legend. You are the storm they never saw coming. And your story is far from over. So here you stand, a force unleashed, a shadow turned into a blaze. The world once wrote you off, doubted your rise, dismissed your potential. But you did the impossible. You shattered their expectations, broke the mold, and redefined what it means to be unstoppable. Remember this: legends are not born from ease or approval. They are forged through pain, relentless grit, and the courage to be the unexpected. You didn't just become a legend. You became the reason why they'll never underestimate anyone like you again. Now, as you move forward, carry this truth with you always, that the darkness you endured wasn't a cage, but a crucible. Your story is a living testament to the power of defiance, resilience, and unwavering belief. Keep breaking their minds, keep rewriting your destiny, and never settle for anything less than legendary. because you are more than the doubts, more than the silence, more than the past. You are the storm. You are the legend, and your time is now.